a forgettable fish remembers her past and sets out on a journey to find her family. Hey there guys, how are you? So let's talk about Finding Dory, which is a sequel that came out 13 years later after the original. So I guess it's safe to assume when it comes to Pixar sequels, unless it deals with cars talking to each other, it takes at least a decade to get a sequel. I hate you, Mater. Alrighty, so once again we have Ellen DeGeneres as the voice of Dory, who suffers from short-term memory loss. Now when it comes to the original Finding Nemo, which came out in 2003, the character of Dory was a sidekick character, and she had short-term memory loss. And in that film, it was done to a comedic effect. And in that original film, the movie never really stops to show how dark and depressing that illness is, because it's almost debilitating at times. And in this movie, they really make a point to show you just how fucking awful that is. And some days, I too suffer from short-term memory loss. That's why for this review, I had to type out some notes. I can't remember everything. I'm gonna forget it as soon as I start babbling on. Then I ramble off onto something else, another topic. Somehow we start talking about Batman, and I talk about Sour Patch Kids and energy drinks, and then I just go, what was I talking about? Where am I? And in this movie, with the character of Dory, who forgets everything every 60 seconds, I thought that made for a pretty interesting story. I thought at first it might be annoying, but it really added an element to the movie I didn't expect to get out of it. And when you really stop to think about it, it's almost like Memento, but with a fish. Now, let's talk about the feels and the emotions that this movie gave me. What am I doing with my hands? I'm going to put them right here for now. But when this movie first started, you have the opening sequence, and it's a young Dory who loses her family, and you have this little baby fish with these big eyes. Now listen, I'm a dude. I like to go to the gym 5 times a day, 7 days a week, eat Sour Patch Kids, and sometimes I talk like a 1980s WWE wrestler. Ooh, yeah. But there are times in this movie where I got a little bit emotional, and I could feel a tear just almost wanting to trickle out of my eye. One day, Dory has a few past memories that flare up, and this leads the search to her family across the ocean to the Sea Institute Aquarium. And that's where the majority of the movie takes place, and I was okay with that because that's a really interesting setting, because when you look at the first Finding Nemo film, the majority of the film took place in a small fish tank in a dentist office. And since this movie is a sequel, and in sequels you have to go bigger and better than the previous movie, that's what this movie does. Now, do I always stand by that? No, because I think simple things with simple stories sometimes make for better movies. And in this case, I think it works out well, because in the previous film, like I said, it was a very small location, a little fish tank in a dentist office, and now you have this entire aquarium to work with. You have all these characters, different locations, places they can go, such as the character of Hank, who's a paranoid octopus. I just said paranoid octopus. And when it comes to the character of Hank, I would say he's probably my favorite character in this entire film. He's voiced by Ed O'Neill, who I just call Al Bundy. Without the character of Hank being Dory's sidekick throughout the rest of this movie, Dory would have got nothing accomplished, essentially. And the character of Hank, well, he is kind of like a manic, depressed, paranoid octopus that has 6 tentacles. And I don't know why, I just really liked the character. He resonated with me, and he really drove the movie, and at times he gets shit done. He is an octopus that gets shit done. Now, since this is a fully CGI animated film, let's talk about the visuals. And they all look fucking phenomenal. There, I summed it up for you. Okay, I do have a few more things to say about the visuals of this film, besides the fact that they look beautiful and they're stunning to look at. And just as a movie, you can put your 3D glasses on, and that's right, if you're gonna watch this movie, I recommend watching it in 3D because it's the type of movie that's worth the ticket price of 3D. But as far as the visuals of this film go, at times they go for that stylized cartoon look, but at other times, it looks so photorealistic and real. For example, there's one scene in this movie, there's this sunken freight ship at the bottom of the ocean, and it just looks so real. Like, if they would have put that into like a $200 million action movie, and you put Aquaman in the front of that, you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Now here's my number one negative with the film Finding Dory. Like I said a few seconds ago, this movie is a sequel, and in sequels you gotta go bigger and better, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But when you have a movie that's a sequel and you have a predecessor, we have to mesh up the believability of both movies. No matter how unbelievable they are, they have to be on the same tone and consistency as each other. Now listen, the information I'm about to tell you is not a spoiler. It will not affect your movie-going experience. Okay, so during the third act of this movie, during the climax, the octopus, at one point, starts driving a truck down the highway as Dory navigates. It's like, I get it, it's a cartoon, but based on everything that happens before that in this movie and in the previous movie, it just doesn't seem like something like that would actually happen. So here are my final flicking thoughts on Finding Dory. There's an aspect in this film that I really appreciate and really like, but no one really talks about it. It's not a focal point of the movie, and they never really make a big deal out of it. Because the main message of Finding Dory is saying, hey, if you have disabilities, you can overcome those, kick some ass, and do whatever you want to in life. That's the message that Finding Dory is all about, so I give that 2 thumbs up. But what I'm talking about goes a little bit darker than that, and if you've seen this film and you just step back and really look at it for what it is, every character in this film, every 5 minutes or so, there's a situation that they're put into where it's life or death. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I really like this aspect of the movie, but the movie really never makes it a point to say, oh, these characters are in a dangerous situation, you guys better be on the edge of your seat. No, it kind of turns into a comedy act. I'm gonna give you one quick example of many where the main characters could have easily died. Now, there's a scene in this film where Merlin and Nemo have to cross a sidewalk to get to the other side to go find Dory. And how do they do that? Well, there's this fountain that shoots up water and it goes ch-ch-ch-ch. But one of them don't go off. They're laying on the concrete, dying, and all of a sudden they scoot over to it. It flips them up in the air, and it's just like they could have just died right there. That's like watching a soldier on the battlefield in a film bleeding out before his buddy comes over and drags him to the helicopter off to safety. I don't know. Maybe it's just me and I'm thinking too much into this, but there are scenes like that throughout this entire movie. And it's just like, whoa, that was dangerous. The movie really just never made it a point to say it was dangerous. So with all that said, I'm going to give Finding Dory, an A-. It's a really great sequel. It's a good time. What do you guys think about the movie? Or what is your favorite underwater movie? Yeah, let me know that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, make sure you check out my last 2 movie reviews. I did one for The Conjuring 2, and I just put up one for Warcraft. So check those out, links down below. Make sure you guys subscribe, that way I can see you next time.